Have you ever come across individuals who seem to pick up on every little detail that flies right past everyone else? These folks have an uncanny knack for spotting the subtlest shifts in someone's expression, decoding feelings that are carefully concealed, and identifying behavioral patterns that remain invisible to most. They pierce through the facades people put up in social settings, detect underlying tensions immediately, and sense the uneasiness that lingers unspoken in conversations or gatherings. Folks often label this as keen intuition or a remarkable sign of high intelligence. Yet, in reality, this keen perception acts more like a challenging psychological load to carry. The capacity to perceive beyond the surface always extracts a significant toll. Those with this trait find it nearly impossible to simply tune out their observations, engage in straightforward, carefree interactions like others do. The endless detection of insincere actions leads them toward feelings of seclusion, persistent skepticism, and profound mental fatigue. It's not due to any personal fragility, but rather the constant load of insights that remain unshared and unappreciated by those around them. Navigating this heightened state of awareness is precarious. Such exceptional insight has the potential to gradually wear them down or, alternatively, propel them toward remarkable personal growth. In this discussion on Mind Unchain, we'll explore the inner workings of individuals who perceive what escapes others' notice and examine strategies to prevent their own thoughts from overwhelming them. Hello again, and welcome to Mind Unchain. Let's dive right in. To truly grasp what enables certain people to notice what most overlook, it's essential to ground our understanding in scientific terms rather than mystical ideas. Neurologically speaking, this stems from rapid information processing known as thin slicing, paired with a sharp sensitivity to inconsistencies between actions and words. Picture the typical mind as spectators absorbed in a theatrical performance, fully immersed in the dialogue and plot on stage without question. In contrast, the mindset of someone exceptionally observant operates on multiple levels. Their inner awareness instinctively shifts focus to the elements backstage, the flaws in the scenery, the subtle cues from stagehands, the beads of perspiration indicating anxiety in the performers. This brain functions like a non-stop observer and analyzer, constantly on the lookout for any discrepancies or glitches in how people present themselves. Communication between humans occurs along dual pathways, the spoken content and the physical, nonverbal signals. While the majority concentrate primarily on the literal words exchanged, those gifted with this penetrating insight possess an internal detection system finely tuned to the nonverbal aspects. They are particularly attuned to what psychologist Dr. Paul Ekman referred to as micro-expressions, fleeting, almost imperceptible changes in facial muscles lasting merely a fraction of a second, from about 1/15th to 1/25th, that betray genuine underlying sentiments someone is attempting to suppress. Consider a scenario where a colleague remarks, "Congratulations on your promotion. I'm thrilled for you." The highly attuned individual picks up on the mismatch right away. Perhaps there's a slight elevation in pitch at the end of the sentence, or the smile appears forced without crinkling the eyes properly, or a momentary flash of envy crosses their features. The mind registers this discrepancy immediately. The verbal message doesn't align with the physical indicators. It's a signal of deception. This recognition occurs automatically and instantaneously, much like taking a sip of soup and instantly knowing it's overly seasoned. No deliberate analysis required. The senses deliver the verdict directly. However, the most daunting aspect isn't merely identifying the falsehood itself. It's uncovering the motivations fueling it by integrating pattern detection with an intuitive understanding of others' mental states. These individuals peel back the layers and glimpse the vulnerabilities, anxieties, or hidden drives at play. For instance, they might observe an angry superior and perceive instead a deeply insecure individual desperate to maintain authority. Or they encounter someone boastful and see beneath it a profound need for approval stemming from self-doubt. While this might appear to offer a clear edge in navigating interactions, the reality is that it frequently draws them into three particularly draining psychological patterns. The first trap involves unintentionally becoming the villain in social dynamics. Recall the figure from ancient Greek lore, the prophetess Cassandra, who received the divine ability to foresee events accurately, yet this power was cursed such that her warnings were perpetually dismissed. She foresaw calamities and tried to alert others, only to be regarded as pessimistic or unhinged. In contemporary settings, people endowed with this penetrating gaze often embody modern versions of Cassandra within their personal and professional circles. Society largely relies upon courteous deceptions and social personas to function effectively, maintaining harmony at work, preserving peace within families. There's an unspoken pact to participate in this collective illusion. Then arrive these individuals who decline to dim their vision, who illuminate the overlooked shadows and concealed imperfections that others prefer to ignore. Take a typical romantic encounter, say meeting through an online platform. On the initial meetup, the date arrives well-groomed, engaging, and regales with tales of ambitious ventures, exotic travels, presenting an idealized image of a potential soulmate. An average person might feel swept away, enchanted, convinced they've encountered something destined. These perceptive souls, however, have already conducted a thorough mental assessment in the first few moments. They discern that the apparent self-assurance masks deeper compensations for feelings of inadequacy. They observe restless glances seeking validation, indicating a scripted performance rather than authentic presence. The overly eager demeanor registers as a subtle tactic of influence, sharing their reservations with companions. Something about this person seems off, too contrived, often results in being viewed as overly suspicious or self-sabotaging. You're overanalyzing, they appear wonderful. Others perceive only the surface allure, missing the undercurrents that stand out so clearly. Lacking tangible evidence beyond their gut feeling, their perspective is discounted, positioning them as the problematic one in the narrative. This dynamic intensifies in professional environments or among social circles. Their insight inadvertently disrupts others' carefully constructed roles. Suppose a team member frequently portrays themselves as overburdened by unfair management to garner support and sympathy. Colleagues rally around with encouragement, yet the perceptive observer recognizes the pattern. Missed targets lacks effort, and emotional appeals as tools for shaping opinions, rather than joining in. They might offer a straightforward observation like, "Perhaps better planning on the deliverables could have altered the feedback received." This simple truth shifts the atmosphere dramatically, often provoking defensive hostility from the individual. This reaction ties into concepts from psychoanalytic theory, such as projection and mechanisms defending the self-image. Exposure of concealed traits triggers acute discomfort and embarrassment. To safeguard their fragile sense of self, the response is often aggressive redirection, casting the insightful person as harsh, superior, insensitive, or devoid of understanding. Consequently, honesty carries a steep cost. Rather than gaining admiration, these individuals inspire unease. Others feel exposed at a core level, and instinctively, people tend to reject or undermine those who possess knowledge of their vulnerabilities. Over time, those with this capacity internalize a painful lesson. Their clarity disturbs the equilibrium for many. In response, they often opt for restraint, offering polite affirmations and feigning ignorance. Yet this suppression fosters an internal void, leading into the subsequent challenging pattern. The second trap centers on an intense fixation with interpreting others coupled with excessive rumination. Once trust in surface-level communications erodes, reliance shifts entirely toward personal interpretations. What begins as useful observation morphs into an all-consuming strategy for emotional self-protection. We might refer to it as adopting a perpetual investigator mindset. Accustomed to uncovering discrepancies hidden by pleasant expressions, they start attributing deeper significance to nearly every interaction. Simplicity in connections fades away. Innocence in bonds diminishes. A kind remark from a significant other transforms in their mind into potential groundwork for requesting something later. A thoughtful present isn't appreciated purely for the gesture. Instead, Questions arise about possible underlying remorse. Even a delayed response to a message, perhaps due to a hectic schedule, gets reframed as emotional withdrawal, diminished importance, or impending relational trouble. This keeps them in a state of perpetual vigilance. The underlying aim? Shielding against potential pain. By anticipating every possible disappointment, they hope to soften its impact. This heightened sensitivity becomes a form of internal shielding. Unfortunately, such protection weighs heavily, obstructing genuine emotional exchanges and spontaneity. This constant scrutiny often leads them into a common cognitive pitfall known as confirmation bias. Convinced of hidden agendas, the mind selectively gathers supporting evidence while disregarding contradictory signs. A partner's weary appearance following work might be read as waning interest rather than simple tiredness. Presence in the moment suffers as mental energy focuses on constructing multiple negative future outcomes. They master the art of mental foresight, unmasking every pretense, avoiding deception. Yet this victory comes at the expense of tranquility. Qualities like naive trust, spontaneous affection, or the simple comfort of closeness without second-guessing turn into rare treasures. It's comparable to possessing hyper-acute auditory senses that detect structural weaknesses in advance, aiding avoidance of danger but robbing one of the pure pleasure derived from harmonious sounds, as each note prompts threat assessment. The fatigue arises not solely from mental loops, but also from the accumulating pressure of unvoiced observations. This brings us to the third trap, serving as an unintended repository for emotional burdens. There's a distinctive form of solitude familiar, primarily to those who perceive layers others don't. It differs from physical isolation. Rather, it's the experience of being amid a group, witnessing unfolding difficulties, yet remaining unable to intervene verbally. Imagine attending a dear friend's wedding ceremony. The atmosphere buzzes with joy and congratulations. But subtle cues, perhaps a lingering look toward another guest, or a tense expression masked by smiles, reveal foundational instabilities in the union. They foresee potential challenges at the peak of festivity, but proceed to offer toasts wishing enduring joy. It resembles being aware of an impending disaster, like a vessel heading toward peril while surrounded by celebrants enjoying the occasion. Voicing concerns risks disbelief and spoiling the experience for everyone. Alternatively, they might witness a supportive colleague repeatedly exploited by a demanding superior. Noticing the signs of burnout, they recognize that intervention could be futile or harmful, as the colleague might rely on self-deception for coping. A defense they shouldn't dismantle unilaterally. Accumulating these silent realizations gradually saps vitality, fostering a persistent, subdued emotional strain. This leads to a complex internal conflict, genuine concern for those unaware of manipulations, mixed with frustration at the prevalence of pretenses. Their thoughts oscillate between profound compassion and wary doubt. Compounding this, their proficiency in understanding others allows them to anticipate requirements unspoken, enabling them to navigate situations diplomatically and provide support. Yet reciprocally, few extend the same depth of perception toward them. Assumptions arise that such strength and perceptiveness mean they require no support themselves. The individual who offers clarity to others ends up somewhat transparent yet impenetrable, like a one-way mirror. They discern everyone's inner world, but projections from others reveal little of their own struggles. So how does one find balance when the mind refuses to cease registering these realities? Shutting down this acuity isn't feasible. Demanding reduced awareness equates to instructing someone with clear eyesight to act as if the world is out of focus, simply unworkable. The objective shifts from diminishing perception to modifying reactions to the information received. Within approaches from counseling psychology, achieving this balance involves establishing mental limits and adopting key adaptive strategies. The first strategy is what we can term selective awareness or deliberate restraint. It involves acknowledging observations fully while choosing responses selectively. Distinguish clearly between recognizing facts and feeling obligated to address them. Observing a colleague engaging in obvious flattery toward leadership. That's the insight gained. But does it fall within their duties to highlight it? Typically not. Does it impact their own responsibilities or goals? If not, then allow it to pass without engagement, much like noticing changing weather patterns overhead without needing to alter them. Relish any urge driven by self-importance to act as an enforcer of honesty. View this perceptual skill primarily as a resource for personal guidance and informed choices, such as deciding collaborations or boundaries, rather than a means to critique or reform surroundings. The second approach encourages embracing the role of social personas with understanding. Much of the distress for these observant types arises from elevated expectations regarding genuineness in interactions. They yearn for complete openness from all, yet considering it from a more compassionate psychological perspective reveals why such personas persist. They often serve as protective coverings for past hurts, uncertainties, and worries about rejection. The outspoken, boastful individual may simply be seeking connection through attention. The seemingly detached acquaintance could be guarding against further disappointment. In some cases, these pretenses prevent total emotional breakdown. With this perspective, initial irritation or aversion toward inauthenticity tends to soften. Acceptance takes root. They register the persona without attempting to dismantle it forcefully. Instead, they offer space for comfort within it. True insight manifests not in revealing vulnerabilities, but in recognizing them fully while extending empathy and respect nonetheless. The third principle centers on releasing fixation on immediate uncertainties to preserve presence. Escaping the investigator cycle requires embracing a degree of vulnerability. Rather than attempting to forecast and manage all possible outcomes, acknowledge signals of potential issues without allowing them to overshadow current experiences. Should inner sense indicate a possibility of relational challenges, note it internally as a consideration, but prioritize engaging with the positive aspects available now. For example, even if there's an estimated likelihood of difficulty ahead, Samban the bravery to appreciate the majority of fulfilling moments in the current phase. Embracing life wholly sometimes necessitates willingness to experience setbacks. One might recognize potential difficulties in a situation, akin to spotting prickles on a beautiful bloom, yet avoid fixating on them to the point of missing the fragrance and beauty entirely. Granting permission for occasional purposeful overlooking enables mental recovery and allows emotions to flow more naturally, resembling those without such constant analysis. As this practice develops, an interesting shift occurs. The observational capacity remains intact, but transforms into a more profound form of understanding and guidance. No longer functioning merely as a detector of imperfections, it becomes a steady source of direction. They perceive potential hazards and complexities, yet navigate through them with composure, assisting their own path and perhaps subtly supporting others without confrontation. This form of awareness represents both a demanding challenge and an invaluable asset, capable of fostering exceptional depth when harnessed effectively. If elements of this resonate with your own experiences, if you've long been someone who catches what slips by others, now that you're in good company. Considering the patterns we've discussed, which of the three tends to affect you most strongly? And crucially, will you take steps toward incorporating these guiding approaches to safeguard your well-being? I'd love to read your thoughts and personal experiences in the comments below. Should this exploration on Mind Unchained prove helpful, please show your support by liking and passing it along to others who might benefit from insights on managing a highly attuned mind. Your share has the power to positively impact someone's perspective. I appreciate you joining me through to the conclusion. This is Mind Unchained. Continue with us as we uncover more about the complexities of the human psyche. Until our next conversation, take care.